Hey everybody, welcome to the Rochester Press Box. Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Puckle this week, and I have two new guys in studio for today. Kevin Oklobzija, good to have you back here talking a little bit about the hockey season.
Great to be here. It's been a good year so far, kind of, sort of, you know.
I got to ask about those Sabres, not that far away from the wild call. And of course, Paul, thank you for the work you did with WDKX covering high school basketball, Section 5.
Making the transition from basketball into baseball now, although it doesn't look it outside.
Pickin Splinters, I wanted to get a preview on high school baseball, but I don't know. If we don't get any better weather, we might not see any high school baseball.
Holy smokes.
Or see it in the snow. I'll fire first for you, Kevin. Your thoughts on the start of the Major League Baseball season. Starts this Thursday. Obviously, all eyes on the Dodgers. They spent the most money, got the biggest star. So is this their year now?
It was last year, it was the year before that, and it probably was the year before that too. And they still, I mean, if you spend that much, you're supposed to win, and they're trying to buy one. Man, they want one out there. I mean, they've built them back into, you know, the thing, the team to go watch. They're not, the Lakers probably still are, but the Dodgers are the ticket there now. And I don't know. I like the Braves. I like the Braves a lot more than I like the Dodgers.
They are one of those teams to watch out for, Paul, if you think about it for a minute. But I mean, Shohei now, you put in Mookie Betts, you put in Kershaw, like the Dodgers.
Oh, Shohei, the guy who gets hurt every other week?
Well, he's not going to be pitching this year, but he is going to be hitting this year.
He'll strain something.
Well, the whole thing with the pitching is, how much longer are we going to get out of Clayton Kershaw?
Yeah.
Because he was already showing signs of age. So they bring in Glasnow now, and he hasn't proven that he can eat up innings. So it's going to be up to their bullpen, and that hasn't proven that it's been particularly reliable over the last couple of years, like you were referring to.
Yeah, and I mean, they're good. There's no question that they're probably the team to beat, but they have spent this money before and not won. So nothing's... You know, the Yankees have proven for 20 years that spending money doesn't guarantee a championship, which is one reason they've kind of cut back on their foolish spending.
Which is interesting, too. You can bring up the Yankees and what's going on with Garrett Cole and the fact that they didn't get Blake Snell. He goes to San Francisco. He went straight to their spring training as soon as he signed. I thought, Paul, that was going to be a foregone conclusion. You don't have Garrett Cole to start the season. Here's the big free agent guy who's waiting till the last minute. I thought they'd get Snell, and he didn't go there.
Even if you put Cole in there, you have a pitching rotation with Nestor Cortez and a couple of other guys that you put in there. And I'm not sure it's built to win a lot of games in October. Their bullpen, again, also struggled late in the season. So you add Juan Soto. I mean, they've proven that they could score a lot of runs in the last couple of years. It wasn't the scoring of the runs. It was limiting other teams to it. And they're still facing that going into this season.
Yeah, it's sort of bizarre. Soto, I thought, another bat, but you know the Yankees, they love their bats. Stanton, Judge, who once again, not quite sure about his health to start the season.
True, and I think it also, getting Soto, it takes away a reliance to play Stanton in the outfield.
Yeah.
He's not good defensively. So that helps the pitching staff right there. I mean, what you're able to limit, you know, base runners to. But I don't know. I mean, with Garrett Cole, is that not a Tommy John waiting to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to rest him, and it never works. I mean, rarely does it work. Eventually, whatever the issue is,
it comes to the surface.
Speaking of Tommy John, Ian Anderson is supposed to come back this summer for the Braves. Braves lost their starting rotation there late in the year with injuries. Depending on how healthy he is, and if he can get right back into it, that makes the Braves, again, a contender for the World Series.
It was interesting. I put the Braves in sort of that rotation. Once again, Texas, the Texas Rangers in Houston, the Astros, one of those teams sort of walk around, and somehow by the end of the season or the regular season, they tend to be the sort of scary team that comes out of nowhere, where I didn't think the Rangers were going to win it all last year, and they end up winning it all. And then again, you know, Atlanta got there a few years ago, so did Philadelphia. So there's always that surprise team in baseball.
I think Philly is a team to fear. I mean, they were on their way to the World Series until they choked. There's really no other way to say it. Mm-hmm. But again, when we look at payrolls and money, Tampa is the ultimate organization. Yeah. They spend less than $100 million on their payroll, and they're contenders every year. And while they're a farm system to everyone else, they pretty much get the most of every one of those guys, and then they've got someone to replace them. Their scouting system is phenomenal.
Yeah, it seems to add up for them. Paul, you got a team this year that you're really sort of like keeping an eye on, maybe not early on, but later on?
I don't know if I have a particular team, but there's a variable out there, and his name is Mike Trout. and he's not going to stay with the Angels the whole year, right? He's going to get traded. Wherever he gets traded, I think suddenly that team becomes a contender. Is it Philadelphia? So he kind of goes back to his roots.
Hometown, sort of.
New Jersey. I mean, if you put him in that Philadelphia lineup last year, they probably are over the hump.
Oh, that's a dangerous sort of lineup for Philadelphia. We'll wait and see if that happens. We'll talk Bills coming up next. You're watching the Rochester Press Box.
Just passing through, life lessons from notable Rochesterians, people you may think you know. Don Elhart, Maggie Brooks, John Dady, and Stacy Pension, J. Mack and Soccer Sam, Fred Costello, and Jake Zembeck, along with 21 more. How they all got from there to here. It's a new book by Bill Pucko, available for $12 postpaid only from rocksportsnow.com. Try it, and thank you.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. The Press Box being brought to you by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Now, there's been an addition to the Buffalo Bills staff. They have a new COO. Paul, who's this?
Mr. Picawelli, longtime Rochester resident, Aquinas grad, SUNY Brockport grad. He started off on radio.
He was a co-host of a sports talk radio or a sports talk show on Sports Radio 990, which what it was called in like 95 it formed. His show preceded A Day at the Races, which I co-hosted.
Really?
With Kevin Yost at the time, and then Todd Height for about 15 years. We had the show going. So
I did not know that. Oh, that's
and now Pete is. There's a little difference in how we both our careers.
Oh, you're doing pretty well, Kevin. Don't even talk about it. But you know what? It's interestingly enough about what the Buffalo Bills are doing. They've had to restructure so many contracts, and it's just been restructuring and restructuring. Is this the way this sort of world of sports goes now? We give out these big $1 million contracts, and now we have to go back to the math guy again and sort of recalculate the budget all over again.
Why did you point to me as the math guy? Because I'm not by any stretch. Not to go back to the baseball, but did we hear about Shohei Ohtani,
Yes.
who deferred how much, like 90-something% of his salary to years down the road when he's going to be retired? Yeah, that's what they're going to do. I mean, that's what Mahomes has done in Kansas City, and that's made them successful over a period of time. And it makes sense, but for someone who's not a math guy, isn't this Bobby Bonilla all over again?
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, you defer money and then you run into trouble at some other point. I mean, you're trying to win it now. I get it. They have the team that probably is nearing the end of that window, but eventually all these things catch up and you end up in, cap problems.
Yeah.
Camp purgatory.
Can you say Camp Hell on a Sunday?
Camp purgatory. Well, how you use the word.
Well, yeah.
Remember when the Islanders signed Rick DiPietro to that 15-year
Mike Milbury, 15 years.
and we all thought it was nuts.
He actually started the trend.
Yeah.
Well, it's the way the NFL sort of operates now. It's the way sports operates right now for the most part, where you have to have a numbers guy constantly looking at what is going to be, what our roster will make of. And of course, you want to keep guys, so you give them the $100 million,
It's
$200
kind of
million
crazy
contract.
how the front office now, you don't have to know anything about the sport. You have to know analytics, and you have to be able to crunch numbers with analytics. You don't really have to know baseball to do that, or whatever sport. And you have to be able to figure out contracts. You don't have to know anything about the sport. Here you go. Here, the GM comes, figure this out. How are we going to sign this guy?
But you know what's interesting? The rookie contracts now are so small in the sense that everybody wants to build around the rookie contract before they give said rookie who has earned the spot, if they do, the big $100 million contracts, because you know full well how hard it is to keep a very good quarterback on your team.
And it doesn't matter the sport. The Sabres have done that with Dahlin, with Samuelson. I mean, everybody's trying to be proactive. Don't let this guy get away. Let's give him all the money. Let's sign him to that 7-year, the max contract, whatever it is. Again, eventually that catches up to you.
And for the Buffalo Bills, they'll keep shuffling the deck. We'll see what happens. Still, haven't gotten to the draft yet. Still some free agent signings to go through. And we haven't even touched camp yet. So not quite sure what the Buffalo Bills plan on doing between now and then. But you can always wait for a surprise. That's the Buffalo Bills segment being brought to you by Connors and Ferris, your workers' comp attorneys. Coming up next, like it or not.
Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
Channels of the Finger Lakes. They're historic and they're beautiful, and you can tour them. I'm Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy, and I'll take you to them. Just look for the Getaway Guy right now on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Tariq Spence filling in for Bill Pucko. Like it or not segment. Have to start about the hockey world. And Kevin, the Buffalo Sabres are a few teams back from the wild card with about a month to play. Their chances of making the playoffs?
None. None. Like, really, this is the same thing every year. It's Groundhog Day. It's whatever you want to call it. And they're going to get close, and they'll probably miss by a point, just like they did last year. And everybody through the summer is going, oh, boy, we're so close. We just need this. And it's their own fault, really. Yeah. If they had just put Devin Levi in Rochester to start the year and made sure that Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen knew he was number one, then they start a lot better. I truly believe that. The idiocy of thinking a kid out of college could jump right into the NHL and play from the start of a season on is mind-boggling. It's never happened. It's not going to happen. But yet, we've got the guy. We're going to try it. And there we are. Well, missing the playoffs by a point or two and making this great run at the end of the year to get everybody all excited and tease them. Hey.
Can they miss it by 5 points so they send guys down to the Amherst?
Well, they'll still, I mean, the guys, Levi, a couple guys, I can't remember who else on the roster just come down, but yeah, but it didn't have to be this way. I really don't think it should. And if there were enough people that said it's not going to work, it can't work, but yet, you have guys that say, well, we like him. He's really, and he did play well at the end of last year.
Absolutely.
But a lot of guys have done that.
College basketball, the tournament's going on as we speak, so we can't really talk about teams that are in or out. But I wanted to get your thoughts on sort of the state of college basketball. I was watching one of the play-in games, Paul, and I want to take a step back. Did I hear one of the announcers say that basically guys have been on 4 different teams in the last 4 years through this transfer portal? So, I mean, I don't know who to follow in college basketball.
For the most part, I could say yes without even knowing who you were talking about because, yesterday and Monday, I'm going to venture to guess there were as many social media posts about players entering the transfer portal as there were actual events about the NCAA tournament. And it's just, I remember last year at one point, I looked it up and there were over 1,400 kids in the transfer portal. And if I could kind of take a little bit of a bird walk here, we live in a world where people like Kenny Pickett can try to make us believe that he's going into a better situation in Philadelphia being a full-time backup as opposed to competing for a job. A lot of these kids go into the portal. It's almost like a place of destination. I want to go to the portal. I want to go to the portal. And then they end up in a situation that is not as good. Yeah. One example, and I don't mean to pick on him, but Dwayne Banks III, he was part of that St. Peter's team that went to the Elite Eight a couple of years ago. He left, went to the portal, and went over to St. Bonaventure. They had that team with Osun Asuniyi and Kyle Lofton. Everybody thought that team was going to win a couple games the next year. Well, they all left and went to the transfer portal. So here's Banks. He's still at Bonaventure. Bonaventure doesn't make the tournament, but St. Peter's is back in the tournament. And, there once was a time where we called this a cautionary tale. I think it's all now the price of doing business.
I think it's interesting, too. I wonder if there will be some restrictions on how many times you can go into the portal. Maybe they do that again. Maybe do one portal jump or maybe 2. But I've seen, some multiple. As you just said, we're trying to build a team over here. And then next thing you know, that team isn't there because these 2 other guys decided they wanted to go someplace else and didn't like their situation. I think Syracuse had 2 star players going into the portal themselves. So they're reshuffling the deck all over again, not being in part of the NCAA tournament.
And no coincidence, you got guys like Jay Wright who are leaving the coaching ranks. And Jay Wright, I thought, was kind of early to leave the coaching ranks. I think he had another 5-10 years to give it. And no coincidence that a team like the Knicks, who are playing well, have 3 or 4 of his guys, former players on that team, because everybody knew he developed basketball players.
And by the way, thank you, Jay Wright, because I'm telling you, I saw my Knicks play the other night. That is a complete, we're injured, but we're still competitive. He's got players on that team, does Tom Thibodeau, thanks to Jay Wright. So every time I see him, I'm kind of like, you built those kids right into getting them ready for the NBA. And trust me, they did their own work as well, but it's good to see that camaraderie on my Knicks team, because I haven't seen that before.
As long as you have Brunson and Hart are healthy, you're going to compete.
Oh, jeez, I just need Randall. I just need Randall to come back, and then maybe we can make a push against Boston. But I'm jumping too far ahead. Unfinished business coming up next. You're watching the Rochester Press Box. The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Unfinished Business is brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Better roof, better price. Better call Greg today. Save time and money on your roof and siding. Call us today for a free estimate. Special financing's available. Visit us online at gregtheroofer.com.
Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Unfinished Business is being brought to you by Greg the Roofer, and the first to fire off from Pickin Splinters, Paul Gotham.
Local high school baseball fans, mark your calendars for April 20th in the 2024 Strikeout Lou Gehrig's Disease Classic at Monroe Community College. 10 teams, 5 games, all in honor of longtime City School Athletic Director Joe LaPetra, who is suffering with ALS. All proceeds from that day will stay here locally to support residents, area residents, and families who are affected by ALS. Should be a good day of baseball. Very worthy cause. Please come out and give your support.
RIT wins the Atlantic Hockey Championship, makes the championship game this year, and more importantly, maybe more importantly, it's a sign of things to come. This was the first year that RIT's recruiting class could receive scholarships. And they have an all-freshman line. All of them on that recruiting list, all receiving athletic scholarships. Tyler Fukakusa, Matthew Wild, Christian Catalano. That's a sign of things to come. This is what RIT can do. Now, they're not going to compete for #1 draft picks out of the U.S. development program. They're all still going to go to BC and BU and Michigan and Minnesota. But they're getting a lot more players that maybe were on the fringe to play a 3rd, 4th line role at the big schools to play a top role at RIT. The public caught on. The games are selling out. It's a fun atmosphere at RIT right now, and it's going to last for a long time.
Ah, yes, you did it again. You filled out a bracket, and then the bracket is busted literally 13 minutes or 14 minutes into the NCAA tournament after the first game, for crying out loud. There's an upset here, there's an upset there. Trust me, develop my new idea. I developed it over 7 years ago. Don't even fill out a bracket. Here's what you do. When you go to Sweet 16s next week, get yourself some food, get yourself a nice, comfortable drink, and sit there and enjoy the moment for these kids. They would love the opportunity to knock off the big school in the big moment with the last-minute 3 and the last-minute bucket and play their hearts out. A school you never heard of before, didn't even know existed, coming out beating the Goliath team that was supposed to make it to the Final Four. I love it every year. Why would I rip up any paper or be upset that my bracket is busted when I can sit there and see the joy of a team that wasn't even supposed to make it into the tournament actually upset one of the teams that was supposed to contend for a championship? Not that I want to see anybody upset, but you know how these things go. We play a team, one versus another. One team wins, one team loses. I enjoy not even putting in a bracket just to see who's going to win. That's unfinished business for this week. Listen, I saw the play-in game, Paul, and I immediately thought of you. Melvin Council Jr. Wagner, my goodness.
Game high 21 points.
Unbelievable.
Bringing us back to that UPrep team in 2020 that won the AA title. Great seeing Melvin. He scored 1,400 points in 2 years at Monroe College. Not to be confused with Monroe Community College, but Monroe College, Division I junior college. Had a great career there. And let's not forget Diasia Fair also as well.
Absolutely. In the tournament, it's always fun. Good to have you. Good to see you again. hopefully. And of course, Kevin, good to see you too.
Pickin Splinters overload today.
I know, right?
Join us next week on the Rochester Press Box. I'm Tariq Spence. Have a great day. I'm telling you right now, we could have made a sponsorship out of it. That cat would come out of nowhere.
Jump right up in the back of the train. We should be.
And I rooted for it.